This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Tonight, we're taking your calls and questions all about love and the law. So you normally don't think love and the law, the legal profession, goes together, but you know that it does, because whenever there's a divorce, child custody questions, the law has to get involved. So tonight's your chance to ask questions about divorce, child support, child custody. How long does it take to get a divorce? How does property get divided when you go through a divorce? Do kids have any say in the divorce? Call in your questions to the 31 Law Call number 256-536-0077. You can also email your questions. You can send an email anytime, any day of the week. You send it to lawcall@waytv.com. And when we get to a show that's on point, we pull some of them out, and we will have some of your email questions tonight. Will League is here from Timberlake and League. Good to have you here. Good, having a good weekend?
I am. Did you have a good Valentine's Day?
Had a good Valentine's Day. Got to see my mom today. Mom may be watching tonight.
Very nice.
Happy Valentine's Day, Mom.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Happy Valentine's Day, Mom. I can't believe our mom's got to be in the mix. But you know, love and the law. Oh, we got a video.
We do. So we like to give you a You Make the Law Call clip. Let's see if we've got our You Make the Law Call. This is from YouTube. We like to give you something, show you something that we've actually found. You take a look at the video and see what you think should have happened. So you're cruising some crowded streets. It's always dangerous on a motorcycle. You look to the left and you look to the right and you look over your shoulder, but sometimes things will happen. Watch your speed.
Everything's looking
this
good for
guy
now.
seemed to be going pretty well until suddenly it's not going to be. So when something goes wrong, boy, he's pulling up there.
All right, so I've never seen this before.
I haven't seen this before.
But
and
it looks like
look
everything
for
was
us.
good. He was being careful, but it looks like he went in a bicycle lane, and you can't go in a bicycle lane on a motorcycle. And so I guess if the question is who's at fault, it looks like the motorcycle driver failed to yield a right-of-way.
Yeah.
You know, we've all had the situation where you're waiting for traffic and somebody else waves you through. They can't do that. They can't delegate that duty.
Yeah.
So if somebody waves you through, and they get hit, you can't rely on somebody waving you through. In this instance, motorcycle in Alabama, and we had a Tennessee lawyer here tonight, but in Alabama, you would not be able to recover whatsoever because at least if 1% of fault, there would be no recovery for anybody in this particular case. Now, however, in Tennessee, there's comparative negligence, meaning you would take the percentage of negligence from each driver and put that in a formula to determine what the compensation would be for property damage, personal injury, all those things.
Okay.
All right.
So it seems unfair in the state of Alabama that
It's pretty hardcore, and I don't see any line down in Montgomery to change it to comparative. Most of the other states are comparative negligence, but Alabama is still contributory negligence. That's driven by the insurance industry, straight up, because it makes their liability less. And unfortunately, we are far from helping the consumers in the state in that particular area.
Lobbies work hard.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Sharon, love and the law.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day, all the good part, the candy and the cards, and
flowers.
We're going to love each other forever.
Yes,
and it's
promises you don't intend to keep, right?
Wonderful.
Right.
And then on the other side, things start getting rocky. Contemplating divorce. Is there such thing as a legal separation? What happens while you're separated? How do you pay the bills? How do you make things work? What do the kids do? Child support, child custody, grandparents' rights, all those things. And we've got an expert, Casey Long from Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. Casey, thank you so much for coming down and hanging with us on Sunday night.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate being here.
Hey, I was talking to you guys before the show about the difference in Alabama and Tennessee law, and we were at a
alimony. Yeah.
And alimonies, there was a law that may come around that it might be capped at 5 years. What's the deal with that?
Talk about Tennessee. What's alimony like in the state of Tennessee?
In the state of Tennessee, it's a little more ephemeral. Obviously, you're going to look at the needs of a financially disadvantaged spouse, which is a spouse who makes less money, as opposed to the ability to pay of the financially advantaged spouse. There are no real hard and fast rules. I know that you and I had talked a little bit, and I'd overheard you guys talking some about this change here in Alabama. In Tennessee, the permanent alimony, we call it alimony in futuro. You guys may call it the same thing here. It's really frowned upon. It's a very rare case in the state of Tennessee based on the case law over the last 10 years or so, where a spouse can get alimony in futuro or for life. That alimony just doesn't get awarded near as much anymore.
In the state of Alabama, we've changed it a bit. So
what's going on
now,
here?
permanent alimony, as we would call it, generally doesn't apply until somebody's been married for 20 years or more. Up to 20 years, the judges are typically told to take the length of the marriage and divide it in half, and that might be how long you might consider giving alimony. Sometimes they will give rehabilitative alimony. So like if one of the spouses went to college and is making great money, the other spouse did not go to college. Maybe you put in some rehabilitative alimony to help them get on their feet, get started into a profession, but not something that's going to last a
Now,
lifetime.
what I heard at the CLE, which all lawyers have to go to continuing legal education, 12 hours a year, same in Tennessee as well. It's 12 hours, right, Casey?
That's correct.
And so we're looking at, it's not my area, but I was interested if let's say both spouses were college educated, one spouse was the breadwinner, the other stayed home, they were married for less than 20 years. It's my understanding that alimony would be capped for 5 years if the spouse was able to make a living after 5 years based on her or his education, training, experience.
It can be. It's just depending on, are these people, what have they put into the marriage to get to this point? There are a lot of factors that a judge can look at, but yes, there is a push toward less alimony, especially if you've got people that are equally able. That's the point.
In these cases, they're judges and not juries. Is that the same in Tennessee, Casey?
Yes, that's correct. The judge makes all these decisions.
Is there similar to Rule 32 here where you determine what the husband makes, what the wife makes, and then put that in a formula, 2 children, standard of living, things like that, and it spits out a number as to what alimony would be paid?
Well,
you're thinking child support.
I'm thinking of child support,
calculation.
excuse me, yes.
Child support.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. The same is true in Tennessee for child support, but alimony is much more up to the judge insofar as they make these decisions based on a case-by-case basis. They look at the standard of living that the parties had. They look at the need. They look at the ability to pay. And then they make their best call on what it takes to rehabilitate or to help that financially disadvantaged spouse transition from a 2-income household to a 1-income household.
Y'all, we've got callers waiting. We've got Kathy on the line with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Kathy. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yes, I got a rental car from the Huntsville airport.
Okay.
And I checked it out before I left the car lot. There was tape on one of the lights at the back. So leaving here to my destination, I went out of town. When I arrived, the bumper was hanging halfway off.
Oh, wow.
I took a picture and I called the rental car and asked them what should I do, and they are saying that it was my fault. So I just got a letter. They're trying to sue me, and should I get a Carfax or previous report because I told them there was tape on there before I left. And now
let me ask you this: did you get the insurance?
No, I just used my own insurance.
Got it. All right. So if you pointed them out, there's a pre-trip inspection. If you pointed out that issue to them and it got worse, I think you've got a pretty good argument that, look, you pointed out an issue, it got worse, it wasn't due to any of my fault. So in Alabama, again, they got to prove that your actions was the proximate cause of the damage to that vehicle to recover. If there was a precondition of that vehicle that you pointed out to them, you may have something to stand on if it's in the paperwork where you can prove that you did point that out. They're saying, look, you didn't get insurance, so you're responsible for the vehicle if any damage to it, and you can defend that. But again, I think they got to prove fault, not that it's just happened in your care. But again, let's say you park it in a parking lot, somebody hits it, you come back, you don't know what's happened. Is it on you or is it on your insurance company? Depending on your insurance company, make sure you don't have any exclusions with your own. Let's say you got State Farm, and you say, you know what, I don't want the insurance. But then State Farm has got an exclusion for rental vehicles, in furtherance of any business purpose. Then you would be out and have to pay that yourself. In that sort of situation, you have to hire your own attorney. In this case, if your insurance company, whoever that is in the mix, they will hire an attorney and defend you. So make sure to take that complaint and give it to your insurance company so they can hire an attorney to defend you in that action.
You make me want to go home and check my insurance. Check the
right?
policy,
Yeah.
check the policy. We've got Jones on the line with a question from Decatur. Hi, Jones, thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
if you have a broken engagement, what's the law about me getting my engagement ring back?
The ring. Okay. Let's see if it's going to be the same in Tennessee and in Alabama. Have you ever had this come up, Casey?
I have. A lot of times it'll come up as a broken engagement, or it'll come up later when one party says, well, I bought that ring and I want it back. In Tennessee, the ring acts as sort of the counterbalance to a contract. You know, your spouse is offering to marry you, and you're giving them this ring as a consideration for that contract to marry. So if they breach their contract, it's not their ring. If they follow through with that contract, it's their ring.
Jones, are you still with us? What's the situation? Are you the one that's backing out, or is the other party
I'm
the one?
backing out.
You're backing out. So, Casey, you'd say the other party gets to keep the ring.
I think so. You've breached the contract.
Man, still though,
I know,
y'all,
it seems
that's not
wrong.
right.
Seems wrong.
Can't you change your mind? What if he said, Jones, did you say, hey, let's get married, but if we don't, did you say anything to her other than, will you marry me? About the ring?
Pardon me?
Did you, I mean, did you
Put any
just,
stipulations on it?
did you say,
say
hey,
anything
if we
different?
get married, you have this ring or anything like that? Because Casey's saying she gets to keep the ring under Tennessee law.
It's under Tennessee law.
Well, did it happen in Tennessee?
Alabama similar.
No, it happened in Alabama.
Alabama similar. Yeah,
No, I don't.
it's the.
I don't think
it's a
she should
contract.
get to keep.
You
I don't think she should be able to keep it. But it sounds like Alabama law she can.
They're telling us to take a break. We'll be right back answering more of your questions about love and the law. Stay with us.
Is that wrong?
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call, where lawyers come to help. Your rights, your calls, live. Hosted by family law attorney Sharon Doviet. With the personal injury attorneys of one of the Valley's most respected law firms, Timberlake and League. Featuring the knowledge of managing partner Michael Timberlake, with millions of dollars awarded to his clients. And the experience of attorney Will League, a strong courtroom fighter known for his commitment to winning. And the fellow partners of Timberlake and League Heath Brooks and William Meservey. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight it's Love and the Law night in honor of Valentine's Day.
That's
Earlier
right.
this week, we're going to talk about divorce and child custody
What
and
could possibly go
alimony.
wrong?
What can go wrong? We've got with us Will League from Timberlake and League here in Huntsville. We've got Casey Long, who's an attorney and does lots of family law in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. And we're finding out that Tennessee law, Alabama law tends to be quite similar in those things. Casey, tell us a little bit about having kids as witnesses. So can a child testify in a divorce case or any kind of case in Tennessee?
Well, in Tennessee, one of our custody factors is a child's preference. Now, the way that the statute reads is it's a child's preference, and then an age 12 or older child, the court has to give that preference more weight. What we see in a lot of divorce cases, sometimes there are children that are younger than 12 that testify. Sometimes they testify about their preference. Sometimes they testify about just what life is like in each home. So we do see that pretty frequently.
So we're a little bit different, Alabama. So in the state of Alabama, there is no age. Our judges like to joke, age of majority in Alabama is 19, and I think it may be 18 in Tennessee.
That's correct.
Our judges like to joke, yeah, I'll tell you when a child gets to decide. When they turn 19, they can
Right.
decide which parent they want to live with.
What do y'all see in there? Because I mean, you want to go to the fun parent, but that's oftentimes the best.
That's not
the best for
necessarily the
child.
best parent. Yeah, kids can come testify, and that's some of what a judge is looking for. Is somebody? Are both parents really involved in the activities? Are both parents involved in school? They both aware? And if they're both aware, what I'm finding is our judges really will do 50-50 if they can make that schedule work. How about in Tennessee?
In Tennessee, our judges generally look, when all things are equal, 50-50 parenting plan is what's best for the children. You know, everything is centered around the best interest of the children. And, you know, barring some, you know, extraordinary circumstances, or in some cases, you know, if someone has a crazy work schedule, a lot of times I'll see a firefighter or other people who have, you know, 24-hour on, 24-hour off schedules. Barring that sort of thing, 50-50 is where most of our judges wind up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We've got Debbie on the line with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Debbie. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yeah, I'm just wondering the difference in Tennessee and Alabama law related to a divorce situation where the wife is the primary breadwinner. They've been married, parties have been married about 25 years. Husband left and moved to another state about 4 years ago.
And no divorce?
No divorce.
Yeah. Okay.
And just the question is about permanent alimony, what that would look like in Alabama versus Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, the fact that the husband left several years ago, there are going to be a lot more questions that I would be asking. So if he's not been contributing anything to the household in that span of time, if he's been able to support himself in that span of time, so if you're talking about his wife going to have to pay alimony, well, it sounds like he's been doing okay for himself during that window of time. I think that's going to come into play. It is a long-term marriage, so 25 years is a long-term marriage, and if things were a little different, you could be talking about permanent alimony, but I think there's going to be a lot of facts to come up that you're going to want to bring up.
Let me ask you this. So in Alabama, the wife's a breadwinner. He left, went to another state for 3 or 4 years. Now, if he did not, if she was a breadwinner, he would be entitled to alimony.
Yeah.
Your argument is that because he survived the last 3 years, that's an argument against alimony. So he messed up by not addressing it before
Not
he
addressing
left.
it here. I think it adds questions, and any layers of questions you can add to that sounds like it would help Debbie. Okay? In Tennessee, Casey, what do you think?
Well, in Tennessee, like I said, it always comes down to that party's need and the other party's ability to pay until they establish that need, which if they've been living apart for, I believe you said 4 years, you've been living apart without that necessity of support, I think it's going to be unlikely that the court awards support unless there's just been some dramatic change recently.
Hey, Debbie, is she still here?
Yes.
Has there been any payments made from wife to husband during this 3-year period?
No.
How's he been getting along if he was the breadwinner? Did he find a job?
If she was a breadwinner.
I mean, if she was a breadwinner, excuse me.
I think he has been living off of an inheritance.
Okay. Let's talk about inheritances while you're dealing with that. So something else that has to be dealt with in divorces is the property. What's separate property and what's marital property. And she's talking about an inheritance. Okay? If husband has inherited items, Casey, what typically happens with those items?
Well, if the husband inherited those items and he hasn't commingled them or put them into joint accounts or used them for joint property, then they're going to remain separate property. If he has commingled or deposited those into joint marital accounts, then that's when it becomes more complicated, and that's when some or all of that could become marital property.
It gets tough too if you've got something inherited like a house and you both live in the house for a period of time, you make improvements to the house. Now, even though it was inherited by one of them, it's gotten commingled, and a judge can order it equally split, or it could potentially even grant it to one party or the other.
Right.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about child support, the calculation of child support. How do you come up with child support in Tennessee?
Well, Tennessee has a child support worksheet that's put together by the Child Support Services Division in the state of Tennessee. It's really just an Excel spreadsheet. You put together both parties' incomes, you put together how many children there are, how many days each child spends with each parent, if there are additional expenses for daycare or uncovered medical bills, that's all factored in, and then the worksheet just spits out a number.
What do you have to do to get it changed? If somebody loses a job or gets a better job and is making a lot more money, how do you get it altered?
Generally, you're looking for some sort of variation of at least 15% in one or both parties' incomes. Then you can come back to court and you can have that modified, or in the circumstance that you just mentioned where one party maybe suddenly loses their job, there can be temporary modifications that are requested and granted by the court.
Casey, Huntsville's so close to the Tennessee line. Let's say we get people moving back and forth, Huntsville, Nashville all the time. A couple gets married in Alabama. Let's say it's a 25-year marriage. One of them moves to Tennessee. How long would he or she have to live in Tennessee for jurisdiction to transfer to Tennessee? If only one of the married folks moved.
Well, what I would say is if only one of the folks moved and you didn't have children involved, because children could complicate things matter, a little bit more. But if the parties were married in Alabama, if, just one of them left, I'm going to say that that's going to remain an Alabama divorce.
Because it would be very unfair. You're talking about just Tennessee. That's not too far away. You're right. That's not too far away. But if you compared it to maybe somebody moves to California, you certainly wouldn't expect the Alabama party to have to go to California and hire a lawyer out there and argue a divorce case out there.
Right.
Okay. We've got an email question. Amy wrote in and said, I was offered a job in another state. It will definitely complicate the custody arrangement with my ex since he has the kids every other weekend. Does he have any say in whether or not I take the job? Okay, let's see if this one works out the same, Tennessee versus Alabama. What would you tell her if she was in Tennessee?
Well, if the father is just visiting every other weekend, there is not as much impact on his schedule, depending on how far away you were to move. If this was a move from Alabama to Tennessee, I would say that you could probably still work that visitation schedule. So the fact that it wouldn't impact the visitation schedule all that much, I don't think that they would really have any say. And what I've heard judges say many, many times is, well, I'm not going to prevent you from getting this job, or I'm not going to prevent you from moving, but I might prevent the children from coming with you.
Yeah, especially the further away you're talking about. And there are rules. If you've got your divorce papers, look at them, because there's probably a paragraph in there that tells you you have to give 45 days advance notice to the other party if you're thinking about moving, and that they've got 30 days from receiving that certified mail notice to object to it, not just object to you personally, but to file something at the courthouse.
Right, so you have to get them on notice.
Yep.
There can be, if the other side objects, there's a court hearing, you
Yes.
sort this stuff before, you can't just
Yes.
run off with the kids without
Yes,
an order.
yes. You can move, but the kids can't. You're right.
That's right.
Okay, let's take a break. Be right back answering more of your questions all about love and the law. Stay with us. If you didn't get your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with Michael Timberlake and William Meservey. They are with Timberlake & League. They do personal injury cases, so that's everything from nursing home negligence to auto accidents. 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com, and if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way. They're also on the midday news tomorrow. And don't forget to vote on the best event of the year at AL.com.
And Sharon does family law. She's here in Huntsville, 256-539-7337 or SharonFamilyLaw.com. Next week, we will be talking about family law. So we have an expert on that.
Thank you. Love and the law. So do Valentine's Day on Tuesday and then check in with us on Sunday night. Thanks, everybody.